How much does our perception of a movie star influence the way we experience their films? Today we are talking about the two versions of Sabrina and the reason almost no one wants to have an honest conversation about which one actually works better as a film. For anyone who needs a refresher, Sabrina tells the story of Sabrina Fairchild, the daughter of a chauffeur who works for the wealthy Larrabee family on Long Island. Sabrina has spent her entire life in love with David Larrabee, the younger, charming brother, from a careful distance. When David becomes engaged to another woman as part of a business deal orchestrated by his older brother Linus, Sabrina is devastated. She is sent to Paris, where she slowly transforms from a shy, overlooked girl into a confident, self-assured woman. When she returns home, both brothers take notice, and what follows is a love triangle that forces everyone involved to figure out what they actually want versus what they have been told they should. The 1954 version of Sabrina stars Audrey Hepburn, Humphrey Bogart, and William Holden. That lineup alone is enough to end most debates before they begin. Audrey Hepburn is not just an actress in the public imagination. She is an icon, a standard, and for a certain generation of film lovers, she is untouchable. So when the 1995 remake arrived with Julia Ormond, Harrison Ford, and Greg Kinnear, it was never going to receive a fair hearing. People walked into that theater already comparing it to something they had already decided was flawless. As one reviewer put it, the defense of the original often comes down to nostalgia glasses, rather than any honest evaluation of the storytelling. But the 1954 version has serious problems, not surface-level ones, structural ones, the kind that no amount of star power can fully paper over. The production of the original Sabrina was by most accounts genuinely chaotic. The script was not finished when filming began. Screenwriter Ernest Lehman was writing scenes the same morning they were being shot, sometimes delivering pages at lunch just hours before the afternoon take. To buy even more time, director Billy Wilder reportedly asked Hepburn to fake an illness on set, so production could halt for the day and give the writers breathing room. That is not a sign of a film operating at its best. Then there is the casting. Humphrey Bogart was not the first choice for Linus Larrabee. Cary Grant was originally set for the role and dropped out just 1 week before filming started. Bogart himself reportedly did not want the part, and the tension on set became well documented. He resented Hepburn's rising fame, her needing multiple takes because of her inexperience, and the fact that she was chosen over his wife, Lauren Bacall. The cast split into rival social factions, and his performance reads as guarded because he genuinely was uncomfortable. Meanwhile, Hepburn and Holden were having a real affair during production, which means the chemistry audiences respond to most strongly is actually between the wrong two people. Every time those two share a scene, something lights up on screen, and then the film asks you to believe she ends up with Bogart, and the contrast is almost painful to sit with. The single biggest reason the 1995 version works better is what it does with Paris. In the original, Sabrina's time abroad is reduced to a couple of scenes in a cooking classroom. We do not see her struggle, discover anything about herself, or earn the transformation we are supposed to believe in. She simply returns looking polished, and the audience is expected to accept that as growth. The 1995 version actually shows its work. We watch Sabrina arrive uncertain and homesick. We see her form friendships, experience setbacks, and slowly fill her bedroom wall with photographs and memories until David's picture is almost completely buried beneath them. That single visual detail communicates more about her inner journey than anything the original offers. The Paris sequence in the remake is genuinely some of the finest work in either version of this story, and it is the emotional foundation that makes everything that follows feel earned rather than assumed. The remake also makes several narrative decisions that are sharper than the original. The most significant one happens early in the film. In the 1954 version, after David pays no attention to her, Sabrina attempts suicide. The scene is played almost casually, as though it is meant to land as darkly comedic. It does not work that way. It is uncomfortable, and it makes Sabrina feel foolish rather than sympathetic from the very start. The 1995 version removes this entirely and replaces it with something far more effective. Sabrina, slightly drunk, sneaks into what she believes is David's room to confess her feelings before leaving for Paris. It turns out to be Linus behind the door. He hears everything. It is a small moment, but it plants a seed that pays off beautifully at the end of the film when Linus echoes her words back to her. That is careful, intentional writing. The original does not have a comparable moment of that caliber. The 1995 Sabrina is also simply a better written character. She is more guarded, more self-aware, and when she finally confronts Linus about his manipulation, she does not just melt into a forgiving hug the way the 1954 version does. She questions his sincerity. She waits. She makes him work for it. The ending feels earned because she has done the actual emotional labor of deciding whether to trust him, rather than simply dissolving the moment he shows up looking remorseful. To be completely honest, the 1995 version is not a flawless film either. One legitimate criticism is that it takes itself more seriously than the original, and in doing so, it loses some of the lighter comedic energy that made the 1954 film feel breezy and entertaining. Billy Wilder had a natural instinct for tone that Sidney Pollack did not fully replicate, and if you love Sabrina primarily as a piece of of classic Hollywood fun, the remake can feel a little heavier than you want it to be. That is a real trade-off, and it deserves to be acknowledged. But tone is not the same thing as storytelling. A film can be lighter and still be weaker at its core. The 1995 Sabrina is not perfect, but it is a more honest version of this story. It takes its characters seriously. It shows the work behind the transformation, and it earns the moments that matter. The original gets by on charm and legacy. The remake does the harder thing. So the next time someone tells you the original Sabrina is better simply because Audrey Hepburn is in it, ask them which version actually shows you who Sabrina is as a person. The answer might genuinely surprise them. This is Ladies First, watching women in movies. Here, we empower women by reviewing and discussing films that highlight their stories, struggles, and achievements. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.